News Talk 610 AM and 102.1 FM. KBNU.
KBNU News Time is 4:03. I'm Bill Walter with this news update brought to you by Roof Rescue. Utah's water outlook for March is marked by encouraging developments and notable records, authorities said in an update on Thursday. The Beehive State overall ended with 117% of its typical snow water equivalent for the month, and Alta experienced its wettest February on record, according to the Utah Division of Water Resources. Water Resources Director Candace Hazenyeger said the statewide snowpack has been consistently above normal since the beginning of February, which has really put Utah in a good position heading into spring. The state's soil moisture leading into March was setting the stage for optimal conditions as spring runoff approaches, according to the statement. Saturated soils will allow more water to make its way to reservoirs and streams, 60% of which were flowing at normal to above normal levels as of yesterday, according to what officials noted. The Great Salt Lake was feeling the positive effects most of all, with a noteworthy increase of 1.8 feet since October, which the Division of Water Resources attributes to the state's recent ramping up of conservation efforts to save the lake. The Salt Lake Basin was sitting at 123% of normal. Statewide reservoirs were at 83% on Thursday, more than 50% more than what the state typically sees for this time of the year. It was also a contrast to 2023, when pre-runoff reservoirs were around half full. KBNU News Time is 4:05. KBNU weather for tonight, mostly clear this evening, then becoming mostly cloudy later on tonight, low around 15. Partly sunny Saturday morning, then clearing, and high around 40. Partly cloudy around 50 on Sunday. Right now we have 34 degrees at KBNU. KBNU weather brought to you by the Advocates. If you are not at fault, if you've been injured in a car, trucking, or slip and fall accident, chat online at utahadvocates.com or call 801-355-5550.
Roof Rescue is your local roofing specialist, dedicated to keeping your home safe and dry no matter the weather. Their team of experienced roofers is here to serve you, providing top-quality service at affordable prices. From minor repairs to complete roof replacements, they've got you covered. Remember, your roof is your first line of defense in protecting your family from the elements. So don't wait until the next storm to discover your roof problems. Call Roof Rescue today at 435-999-4268. They're your trusted local roofing experts, here to keep your home safe and dry. Roof Rescue, celebrating 10 years of providing watertight peace of mind.
KBNU News Time is 4:06. The Utah Food Bank is expanding in San Juan County, and this week announced the opening of 2 new pantries that will help support residents of the Navajo Nation. President and CEO Jeanette Bott says despite the food bank serving San Juan County for about 30 years, it had been a challenge to meet the level of need in the area. She says the Navajo Nation is considered a food desert, with an average driving time to food resources taking up to several hours one way. The new pantries will help enhance food accessibility.
While there are a couple of small pantries in the area of San Juan County in different locations, they still weren't big enough or still couldn't be opened every single day. People here will have to drive to Cortez or to Moab. It's not like you can jump in your car and run a couple of blocks and grab a gallon of milk.
Bott says the Montezuma Creek Food Pantry should be open in the next few days, while the Monument Valley Food Pantry will need a bit more time to tie up some loose ends before opening. San Juan County residents face significantly higher rates of hunger compared with the rest of the Beehive State. 17% of residents report food insecurity, compared with 10% statewide, according to the Utah Food Bank. And no one was injured after 2 reported shots fired incidents in West Valley City. Officers from the West Valley City Police Department responded to the area near 3500 South, 3200 West at about 7 o'clock last evening. Police are investigating, as it appeared people from 2 different vehicles had fired shots. Multiple people were taken into custody as officers worked to determine what happened and if the incidents were related. No other details were immediately available. KBNU News Time is 4:08. For more details on these and other stories, visit CashValleyDaily.com.
Fast and first with the latest news every 30 minutes. News Talk KVNU, your number one radio station for news and talk.
Hi, I'm Jay Broadbent with Alpine Home Medical. There's a story that came to us from a real customer, and I wanted to share it with you.
We came in looking for a scooter for our mother. The staff at Alpine showed us different options for scooters and battery-operated wheelchairs and helped us find one that was easy for her to handle and easy for us to get in and out of her car. They have fabulous customer service.
We love hearing about your experiences. Visit us online at alpinehomemedical.com.
Alpine Home Medical, we bring wellness home.
It's true. Many of us spend more time thinking about what's for dinner than thinking about retirement. But if you think your retirement needs deserve more attention, Edward Jones agrees, and they can help. Together, they'll give your long-term retirement strategy the attention it deserves. Stop by your local Edward Jones office, one of 7 locations in Cache Valley. Edward Jones, making sense of investing. Member SIPC.
On the next Handle on the Law.
You are the trustee, correct?
Correct.
It's an amended trust. That's all. Still the same trust. You're just amending it. That's all. It's easy. Easy peasy. And
you recommend someone to do that?
No, I don't.
My
I don't.
attorney has died. So.
Yeah, well, that's even better, all right? Because those are the best kind of attorneys. The dead ones. You know that. Those I highly recommend because they can't really screw it up too badly.
It's Handle on the Law, Saturdays from 1 to 4 on News Talk KVNU, 610 AM and 102.1 FM.
I've got a math question for you. When you add tolerance, subtract prejudice, and multiply efforts to treat one another with respect, what do you get? Less division. And school sports have it down to a science. Looking for an example of what can happen when we realize there's more that unites us than divides us? Look no further than high school sports in Utah.
This message presented by the Utah High School Activities Association and the Utah Interscholastic Athletic Administrators Association.
Nearly 1 in 2 U.S. adults have high blood pressure. That's why it's important to self-monitor your blood pressure in 4 easy-to-remember steps. It starts with a monitor. Be next to talk to your doctor about your blood pressure numbers. Get down with your blood pressure. Self-monitoring is power. Visit managerbp.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council, the American Heart Association, and the American Medical Association, in partnership with the Office of Minority Health and Health Resources and Services Administration.
One smile is great. But one smile in a community of smiles is so much better. Smile Train celebrates the cleft lip and palate community by empowering medical professionals in over 70 countries to perform essential cleft care in their local communities. Learn how Smile Train is helping the cleft lip and palate community at smiletrain.org/learn. Smile Train, changing the world one smile at a time.
For the people.
We are waiting with bated breath for news from the Cache Republican Party meeting an executive committee tonight.
With Jason Williams.
And I'm really excited about this next segment. We have 2 guests here in studio. We're going to talk about something that we've talked about many times here on the show, but from a bit of a different angle.
Weekday afternoons from 4 till 6 on News Talk KVNU, 610 AM and 102 FM.
Welcome to KVNU's For the People. I've just been here since last night. Hour 1 of today's show, Friday.
Invoking your inner Rush Limbaugh.
March 8th, that's right.
Show that never takes a break.
Friday, March 8th. I'm Jason Williams. Bill Walter here as well. Andy Morgan joining us a bit early today. Normally 5 to 6 p.m. we have our For the People movie show each Friday. Andy will be here early today because we've got quite a few things to talk about. A horror movie about imaginary friends in theaters that Andy will have a review of. And then the Oscars right around the corner. We'll talk about the nominees and some many Utah ties to the Oscars in the form of film locations and even Kevin Costner setting up his own film studio here. So we'll talk about all of that when the For the People movie show gets underway. Starting the show off here, though, with a movie-themed guest joining us to talk about the 20th anniversary of Napoleon Dynamite. We've discussed on the show here a multiple night event that will take place at the Eccles Theater here in Logan, celebrating the 20th anniversary of this surprise hit film that still today is, well, to call it a cult classic is almost an understatement. This is a universal classic for so many people. And, of course, if you have lived here in Utah long enough, you know that Napoleon Dynamite has some northern Utah, southeastern Idaho roots, locations, extras, and, of course, tourism that happens specifically in Preston, Idaho, still today. So joining us right now from Preston, Idaho, Kim Cannon. Kim owns Olive & Joe on Main Street, Preston there, a fun boutique store if you want to stop by. But she's also serving as part of a citizen committee working on planning there in Preston, Idaho, the celebration of the 20th anniversary of the Napoleon Dynamite film. And Kim, appreciate you taking some time for KVNU today. Napoleon Dynamite has never really stopped being a thing when it comes to people dropping by in Preston to see some of the locations from the film, right?
Oh, gosh, no. It's we have hundreds of people that come from all over the United States and even from England and Canada.
That is so cool.
Yeah.
This is, especially for a film, I've seen interviews with the filmmakers, and they had no expectations for this film. They just wanted to make it almost for fun. They premiered the film at the Sundance Film Festival in Park City 20 years ago, and it became a huge hit. It was selling out theaters when it got a mainstream release shortly after that. Everyone I know either owns a copy or wants to own a copy. And for Preston, a fun story. I know you probably know more about, Kim, but there's even a school in Preston that has people showing up once in a while wanting to see the scenes from Napoleon Dynamite in person, right?
Yes, the tetherball is still part of the elementary school.
Very cool.
The lockers at the high school are still painted the same colors from the movie, the orange and yellow. And so, yeah. And we don't have school on Fridays. So, lots of people will come just to go to the high school and walk through those lockers.
This is such a great thing, especially for Preston, Idaho, a town and a citizenry that prefers to kind of keep itself off the map a bit, and suddenly here you are, the focal point of this, household name of a movie. It is obviously, cause for celebration, and that's the plan, right? The city, the community plans to make a deal of this 20th anniversary.
Yes, John Heater and Efren Ramirez are coming. They're on tour, and they're coming to Logan, Utah on May 8th for a showing of Napoleon, plus, the actors will be there. And, not a showing of the movie, just like an interview with the actors, with Napoleon and Pedro. And so we are planning with Logan, since Preston is part of Cache Valley, we're planning how to turn this into a bigger thing than just that, and celebrate the 20 years, have people visiting the locations in Richmond, where some of it was filmed, and then, of course, meeting the actors in Logan, and then coming up to Preston and touring all the sites up here.
That's so cool. This is an opportunity, obviously, for people out of state, out of international travelers as well. But for the community here in Cache Valley, there in southeastern Idaho, an opportunity to kind of be a part of those original days when the film was being made, tour the locations and more. And Kim, you do something fun at your store there. Again, at Main Street, Preston, Kim operates a boutique shop called Olive & Joe. And you can't miss the sign if you drive into Preston there. But you have, at the store there, you keep a map, and you ask people who come in to put a pin where they're from. If they came to visit Preston because of Napoleon Dynamite, to put a pin on the map to note where they traveled from, right?
Oh, yes. My favorite story is two brothers. One was turning 50, and to celebrate his 50th birthday, they decided to go on a road trip from Minnesota to Preston, Idaho, just to see the Napoleon House. That was kind of what sparked I need to have a map, and I need to start tracking all of these visitors because it is so much fun to have them come and see our little town.
It's so cool. This is, it's a fun, any excuse to celebrate, really. But for Preston, I know this is a big deal, the 20th anniversary. And again, for listeners, Preston City, the community, planning all sorts of things around the 20th anniversary celebration. And Kim, is there an official start and stop time for all of these opportunities for people to get out and sort of be a part of the history of the film? Have you set dates for the celebration there in Preston?
So there are still some things in the works, but what I can tell you for sure is the showing at the Eccles Theater with the actors will be May 8th at 7:30 p.m., and we may have a little VIP experience announcement that will be coming up shortly.
Very nice. I know everyone's anticipating this. The rumors are going around who might be here as part of this, and it's going to be a pretty big deal. And there is an actual serious side to this as well, Kim. This has meant a lot of economic activity and economic development for the city of Preston, right?
Yes, I think it will benefit all the way, from South Logan up through Preston, just to get more people here and into our community and to keep our dollars in the community, which I think is so important, especially in these small towns.
Sure.
So yeah, we're pretty excited to have this event happening.
This is we have you, Kim. It related to our topic here today, but something I just want to ask about because I've become, over the last few years, a huge fan of downtown Preston. This is a town that, growing up here in Cache Valley, I'm very familiar with, and it has changed, but not in a way that it's no longer Preston. But it has been so fun to see the stores opening, the downtown. It's a very vibrant downtown. There are a lot of reasons to go there, find a place to park and walk the downtown. And of course, your store, Olive and Joe, is part of that. Can you speak to that a little bit? How Preston has changed and how it's become a bit of a destination?
Yeah, we are really trying to revitalize our downtown. We've had a lot of meetings and planning just going on this past couple of months, but I've opened up a store. We have, I'm sure your listeners are familiar with Sydney's that was in Manaway.
Sure.
They just opened up in Preston, I think 2 weeks ago, which is exciting for our town. We have a clothing boutique. We also have a home decor store. Mine is a gift store. They're all within walking distance, which is fun. Even Sydney's or the Mexican restaurants, everything's within walking distance. And then what I think a lot of people forget about Preston is how many beautiful hikes we have around here.
Yes.
Plus the Narrows, where we have the tubing, which is really fun in the summer.
That's a popular event in the summertime. Just a steady, from like June to September, a steady flow of people on that river. Preston, again, if you haven't visited for a long time, get up there, whether it's on a weekend or during the week. Check out Kim's store, Olive and Joe, as well. And be sure and check out those Piper Moon blankets that Kim sells as well. That was my first interaction with your store, Kim. And of course, celebrate Napoleon Dynamite. Kim Cannon, our guest here again, she's part of a citizen and city committee coordinating the celebration of the 20th anniversary of Napoleon Dynamite. Again, it will be celebrated at an event at the Eccles Theater here in Logan, and you may see some famous people at that event. And then in Preston, they're actually offering these opportunities for you to get out and see some of the locations from the film, be a part of the film's history, talk with residents about their experience, both from being extras in the film, a lot of folks there in Preston and Richmond, but also the 20 years since, what this has meant as far as tourism in Preston, people coming to town. As we mentioned, Kim has a map there at her Olive and Joe store on Main Street in Preston where you can put a pin to note where you've traveled from to see the locations from the film. And Kim, again, you said you've had folks from Canada, you've had people stop by from overseas, and I would assume there are some pretty regular locals as well, right?
Of course.
this is a fun thing. And, of course, for listeners, as they continue to nail down some of the dates and events, I've posted a link to this on our Facebook page, but Preston City has a Facebook group and also a calendar on the city's page where they're keeping notes on all of this as things get finalized. But, again, big plans to celebrate the 20th anniversary of Napoleon Dynamite. The film premiered at Sundance Film Festival 20 years ago. After that, got a wide release, sold out theaters, became a cult classic that everyone knows at least one line from. And Kim, as I understand it, you have a favorite line from the film.
Oh, it's my Tina, the Tina line. See if I can say it right on the spot. Come eat your dinner, you fat lard.
That's right. That is the one. And then he chucks the pork chop at the llama.
Yeah.
Just a funny movie. And I just have to note this, Tina. I have a lot of family members who are fans, but recently I found out I have an uncle who's this is a person that is the closest I've ever seen anyone in real life come to a combination of Kevin Costner's character in Yellowstone and Clint Eastwood, just an outdoorsy, tough, lifelong hunter, former trapper. I mean, this is just a guy, and his absolute favorite film, Napoleon Dynamite. He can quote the entire thing. This is something for everybody in this movie. So check it out. Again, Preston City celebrating the 20th anniversary of Napoleon Dynamite. And keep tabs on the committee's work as they finalize some of the dates and events around this celebration coming up in May here in Cache Valley, and going on right now there in Preston even. And you can do that via the Preston City website and their Facebook group for this event. Our guest again has been a member of the committee planning these events and also owner of the Olive and Joe store on Main Street in Preston, Kimberly Cannon. And Kim, appreciate taking some time for us today. A pleasure to have you on the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks for making the time, and thanks to our listeners for making the time as well. Stick around. More to come right after this.
Today's hearing aid technology can improve not only your life, but the lives of the people who care about you. Once again, you'll be able to hear the reason for their laughter and understand conversations. Dr. Paul Danes will customize a hearing improvement program to meet your unique requirements, whatever they are. Call Dr. Danes for an appointment at 753-HERE and let him show you how.
Bring back what you've been missing. Bring back Cache Valley Hearing and Audiology.
Do you know a champion in our community? Nominate them for the KVNU Above and Beyond Salute. Every Friday morning at 8:30, we'll spotlight a firefighter, law enforcement officer, healthcare worker, or other deserving individual and give them a $40 gift card to Firehouse Subs. Submit your nominations for the Above and Beyond Salute by visiting kvnutalk.com. Help us recognize the champions in our communities. The Above and Beyond Salute, sponsored by Firehouse Subs on News Talk KVNU, the voice of Northern Utah.
Do you know a veteran in need? Nation's Finest, through the VA's Supportive Services for Veteran Families program, helps veterans and their families struggling with rent, employment, and other housing-related costs. Today, Nation's Finest operates more than 30 locations in California, Arizona, and Nevada, helping thousands of veterans every year. Visit nationsfinest.org or call 1-833-468-9676. That's 1-833-468-9676.
Kim was nice enough to remind me, I forgot to mention this, but a whole list of the events around this upcoming Napoleon Dynamite celebration at cachearts.org. That's also where you can get tickets to the event that will take place at the Eccles, and that's where the rumor, at least going around, we'll have some stars from the film and possibly even the Jared Hess actor-director. Those announcements are pending, but I know when we spoke with Gavin and Wendy Hassan herself here in the studio on our For the People Theater Hour with Charlie Schill on Thursdays, they both mentioned that they had some pretty exciting announcements to make that'll make people glad they got a ticket. By the way, those tickets are available now at cachearts.org. It is not sold out, Still some great seats left, but as we get closer to May, this is an event that will sell out. Between the locals who are huge fans of the film and those coming from all over the country and even the world for this to be...
I was thinking May 8th, will we have... Well, no, I guess it's still a little too early for the summer citizens. They'll be coming a week or two later, I think.
I would guess there's a few that might come a bit early for this.
Yeah, could be.
Yeah, this is a film that spans, its fan base spans all age groups. The relative of mine that I mentioned, that's a walking version of Clint Eastwood in the Dirty Harry movies, that specific Clint Eastwood. He is in his 70s, but I have friends who... I have a friend who has a 17-year-old kid that has the movie memorized. It's just a huge... And I love stories like this, too. This was a cheap movie to make. They didn't have expectations. Jared Hess himself has said...
Little splash at Sundance, and maybe
that's kind of what they thought. They thought it would probably, get a decent crowd reaction from the film festival crowd because they knew it was funny, but they didn't expect what happened, which was this film. Obviously, it was a hit at Sundance, and then as word started to get out, it was obviously picked up at Sundance. I think the night after its premiere at Sundance, after its very first screening ever. It was purchased, and then distribution took it to theaters around the world. And
pilgrimages to Preston.
Yeah, and since then, as Kim told us, the tourism in Preston around Napoleon Dynamite has never really stopped. Some locations from the film are different or gone now. One location in Richmond I know that building's been completely rebuilt now.
The Big J's, right?
Big J's, yeah.
In fact, shortly after that, it seems like they tore that building
They had
down.
it planned, as I understand it, before the film used the Big J's there in Richmond as a location, and they went ahead with it. And so it doesn't look the same. But people, as I understand it, still stop by that location just to say they were there. The lockers in the high school there in Preston. Now, obviously, that's not something you can just walk in on a Wednesday afternoon and see. But the superintendent and the city have coordinated, tours and people getting their photos taken there at those famous orange lockers from the film. The bowling alley and all of that, which, by the way, it is back up and running. It sat dormant for some time after the film came out, but it's operating again. It's just it's a fun thing and puts Preston on the map. Hopefully not more than they want to be. Hopefully this Napoleon Dynamite isn't the thing that turns Preston into a big expensive resort town, because I know everyone that I know that lives there would hate that. But it has been, for Preston, a pretty big deal as far as people coming through, spending money at both spending the night, eating at the restaurants, supporting local stores like Kim's. Just the coolest story. And one story I don't know, and I'm hoping this comes out during the event at the Eccles or some of these events Preston is planning around the 20th anniversary of Napoleon Dynamite, is why Preston, what led them to choosing that location originally.
Wasn't one of the directors from there? I can't remember. One of the producers?
Yeah, either from there or actually was there for some reason. That's the story I'm remembering. But I should have Googled that before we started today.
And I know it has a BYU connection. They were at, the producer was a BYU graduate or something.
Yeah, one of the people that ended up helping fund the film or getting funding for the film. It's and of course they were looking for an authentic rural location that had a high school and houses where they could have big open space, a house where someone might actually have a llama in a big field next door, things like that. And there's not much better spot for that than Preston, right? And again, just a message from me: if you haven't been to Preston recently, the downtown has changed quite a bit. There are a lot of stores, a lot of retail shops like Kim's, Olive and Joe, and others, and it's a fun downtown to be in, and some great food, too. So probably going to get calls now from Preston.
A couple new restaurants, one that moved from Manaway, and then another one that reopened after being closed for many, many years.
Yeah. I didn't know that Sydney's had moved from Manaway. I'd been to Sydney's in Manaway a couple times. and really enjoyed that. I didn't know they'd moved to Preston, but good for Preston. Great food. So, again, Preston City website I've linked to, and also a Facebook group around this committee planning the celebration around Napoleon Dynamite there in Preston, and then tying it in with the big event that will happen in May at the Eccles, where you can get tickets and details for that at casharts.org. And all of this to celebrate the 20th anniversary of a surprise hit at Napoleon Dynamite. We'll be back after these headlines with KVNU's Bill Walter.
Thank you, Jason. KVNU News Time is 4:33, and the news is brought to you by U&I Furniture. Drivers can expect delays on I-215 this weekend as crews start bridge work. Eastbound I-215 will be closed between the I-15 interchange and State Street, while crews take off the top layers of the 300 West Bridge over I-215 for repairs. UDOT said the beams are in great shape and many components are good, but it's time for a tune-up, which will help extend the bridge's lifespan. Little extra care is needed. It has been there for the last 50-some years and surviving the wear and tear of 3,000 cars driving over it 3,000 driving over it daily and 20,000 cars traveling underneath it. By tearing off the top riding surface of the bridge and getting it ready for a replacement, crews will make sure that the bridge will be ready for future decades. Bulls assistant coach Chris Fleming will not face discipline from the league after he made contact with John Collins in the final seconds of a 119-117 win at Utah Wednesday night. That's according to Chicago coach Billy Donovan. The Bulls were in communication with the league office on Thursday, and Donovan said there was no indication Fleming would face a fine or suspension. The altercation involving Fleming nearly cost Chicago the game. Fleming got a technical, and after he appeared to try to hold Collins back and pushed him away, and Collins came at the coach. Brian Dutcher has experienced all 25 seasons of Mountain West basketball, and he's never seen one as crazy as this one. The season after Dutcher's San Diego State Aztecs became the first Mountain West team to reach the Final Four. The conference could have a record 6 teams reach the NCAA tournament this year. Dutcher says the race for the regular season crown has been dynamic. Utah State has clinched at least a share of the title, while the Aztecs have no shot at repeating. The conference tournament is next week in Las Vegas. What could determine things is tomorrow night. Utah State finishing the regular season at home, hosting the New Mexico Lobos. KBNU News Time is 4:35.
Furniture and mattress stores come and go, but there's a reason family-owned and operated U&I Furniture has been here for 95 years. Bring in your tax return. U&I has closeout prices on select mattress models, including some displays. On a budget and looking for a less expensive entry-level mattress? They have it. Want something more supportive to support more weight? U&I has that. Sleep cooler and sleep better on a copper memory foam mattress. U&I sells sheets from Bedgear, a cooler sheet to breathe. That's why there's always a better buy at U&I Furniture, downtown Logan.
ABC News, I'm Chuck Severson. Campaign mode for President Biden at a rally in Wallingford, Pennsylvania, near Philadelphia.
Folks, our freedoms really are on the ballot this November. Donald Trump and the MAGA Republicans are trying to take away our freedoms. That's not an exaggeration. Well, guess what? We will not let him. We will not let him.
Announcing a deal to speed final passage of the package of 6 government funding bills in the Senate to avert a partial shutdown tonight, Majority Leader Chuck Schumer. Donald Trump has secured about a $92 million bond to cover the money he owes to the writer E. Jean Carroll, so his appeal of her defamation lawsuit can go ahead. He's gotten it from an insurance company, but first, Carroll's lawyers have to tell the judge if it's okay with them. The Republican National Committee has voted to install Mr. Trump's hand-picked leadership team, completing his takeover of the National Party. This is ABC News.
KVNU weather for tonight, mostly clear this evening, then becoming cloudy. Overnight low near 15, partly cloudy in the morning, and then clearing during the day, high around 40. Partly cloudy Sunday, high around 50. It's been to 35. It's 34 right now at KVNU. KVNU weather brought to you by Roof Rescue, dedicated to keeping your home safe and dry from minor repairs to complete roof replacement, celebrating 10 years of providing watertight peace of mind. Roof Rescue, USA.com, or call 435-999-4268. You can always get more news at CashValleyDaily.com. And let's get a business update now, brought to you by Edward Jones.
From ABC News, Wall Street Now. It was an up and down day of trading on Wall Street. Stocks climbed on the employment report, which found 275,000 jobs were added in February, beating expectations. Investors are hoping that means interest rate cuts are on the way. But the markets swung the other way after the influential Nvidia stock took a 4% tumble. Nvidia is the third largest U.S. stock. The Nasdaq lost 188 points. The Dow dipped 68. The S&P dropped 34. The maker of a drug for Lou Gehrig's disease says it failed to help patients, raising the likelihood that the drug will be pulled from the U.S. The FDA has approved a label change for the popular weight loss drug Wegovy. It can now be used to reduce the risk of stroke, heart attacks, and other heart problems in patients who are overweight or obese. Microsoft says a Russian state-backed group hacked into its corporate email accounts in January, gaining access to its core software systems. Michelle Franzen, ABC News.
The Cache Valley Media Group Home and Garden Show, presented by Anderson Seed and Garden, is March 22nd and 23rd at the Eccles Eye Center. For 25 plus years, thousands of people have enjoyed this fun and helpful home show. Main Street access, great parking, and thousands of visitors make it perfect for your business. Reserve your space today. Google Cache Valley Home and Garden Show for details, or call 752-1390.
That's 752-1390.
Sweet.
Welcome back to KVNU's For the People. I was thinking that we would get to some reactions from Utah's federal delegation on the State of the Union last night, but they've been pretty quiet today. I don't know if it's because it's a Friday and like me, they are already thinking about the weekend or what, but no official statements. Mike Lee on his other Twitter account, his non-official Twitter account, kind of live tweeted the State of the Union as it happened. That's his based Mike Lee account. I don't know how I feel about lawmakers doing stuff like that, but it is what it is, and it's the current trend for Republicans and Democrats alike in the United States House and Senate, for better or worse, and I'm thinking worse. But other than that, not a lot to cover. If you want to weigh in, share your opinion. If you watched it, 753-5868. A quick note from the legislative session, a couple of different things. I know there's a lot of confusion around this here in Utah because of the constantly changing law around it. But we have an opportunity, a couple of things from the legislature. One, the print version of the gigantic $27, I think, billion dollar. Don't quote me on that. Might have been 24. A lot of billions, or multiple billions. State budget is out. You can actually read through it now. This is something that the state does to make it as easy as possible. I mean, this is a huge budget, so it's quite a bit of reading. But they take it and put it in kind of bullet point form, and they do break it up. The Office of Legislative Research does this. They do break it up in categories. So, like, you can see all of the funding for education or social services or public safety and things like that. They're grouped. So that part does make it easy. But this is a lengthy read. This is also the first time that you, as a member of the public and also members of the media, can actually go through and see exactly what got funded at a leisurely pace, because during the session, this bill doesn't come out until the final night of the session. It's called the Bill of Bills, It's a constitutional mandate. They have to do it. In fact, it's their only real mandate. Everything else they do is voluntary. This is the one thing that the 45-day session is really supposed to be about. And it does take up for the appropriations committees, which is the main appropriations committee, executive appropriations, education appropriations. There are several sort of subgroups and other committees that are broken up on that. And they start working on, they actually work on this year round in a way, but they can't officially start writing it out and putting it in statute and holding meetings where people can come and say, we asked for this, here's why, during these committee meetings. They can't do that until the 45-day session is underway. And so Senator Jerry Stevenson, and before him and working alongside him for years, former state senator Lyle Hilliard, these were two people that did this for decades. And Stevenson's still there, and so he's overseeing it all as chair of the committee. But this is every lawmaker is a part of this. Here in Cache Valley, for example, if someone like, and this could be anything from the university to a group of citizens or a single citizen, they can go to their lawmakers and say, if we had $10,000, we could do this with it. And then lawmakers take that to the appropriations committee, and the requester can actually be a part of the process too, and say, they can go to the committee meeting and testify and say, here's why we're asking for that, here's what we do with it. And then lawmakers in the end, members of the committee, get to decide what warrants the expense or doesn't at that point. And of course, it was a tighter year, but still not very tight. So a lot of money got spent, a lot of your money, and you can pick through it now. I've linked to this on our Facebook page, but you can also just go to le.utah.gov and type in the search box there, type in the word budget or state budget, and it will pop up. It's in PDF form. It's a gigantic PDF. But it's nice. They color code it. It's got some nice graphics and things like that. And so check that out if you'd like to read through it. Some of the highlights and lowlights I've put together here. But before we get to that, again, this is a huge topic of confusion here in Utah because the law on this has changed again and again and again, back and forth and back and forth. And I've talked to so many people, including one member of law enforcement once, when asked, who kind of shrugged and said, you know what, I don't know. Now, to that member of law enforcement's credit, it wasn't his fault he didn't know. The legislature was in session and debating it at the time. But here's the final word on those front bumper license plates here in Utah. So it was a requirement, then it wasn't a requirement, then it was a requirement again, and officially effective January 1st. So right now, technically, you still have to have, or still in statute required to have one license plate displayed on the back of your vehicle and one on the front. So that's technically the way the law works right now. But and by technically, I mean you could still be cited for this throughout 2024. Generally, what happens is when a law is passed and the intent of the legislature is known, that can change enforcement practices at LEAs throughout the state. But they are not required by law to stop citing or stopping for that. And that's another source of confusion. For a long time, it was still required by state law, but the legislature sent the message to law enforcement, don't pull people over for this. Don't make this a primary offense, a reason to stop a car. But if you stop a car for speeding and they also don't have a front license plate, you can cite them for that as well as the speeding. So, again, a lot of confusion around this. But Senate Bill 45 passed, and it is awaiting the governor's signature, but the governor has signaled during the session this is one he plans to sign. And, in the meantime, Sergeant Cameron Roden of the Utah Highway Patrol said that the current front license plate requirement can still be enforced up until the effective date in the bill, which, again, is January 1st, 2025. So, again, in statute, you are required still to have a front license plate until the end of this year. But Sergeant Roden also said when he spoke with members of Utah News and Dispatch, he said, outside of certain circumstances, troopers within the Highway Patrol, at least, are going to match. They're going to understand the intent of lawmakers. So though the bill doesn't technically take effect until January 1st, 2025, the word is out on this that the front license plate requirement is now out the window. And as the law currently exists throughout 2024, again, it is in statute as writ right now. The license plate requirement is a secondary offense. So again, that means you can't be pulled over for this, even now. But if you're pulled over for something else, you can be cited for no license plate on the front bumper up until the end of this year. Though, again, it's unlikely that that's going to happen. The legislature has basically signaled by passing this bill that their intent is for that to not be a requirement here in Utah, and that usually means enforcement practices change at that point, even if the law doesn't actually go into effect in its text until January 1st. So, by the way, it was an interesting debate around this one because during the legislative session, very little of the debate was centered around the burden on the public, which, I mean, let's be honest, it's not that much of a burden. Every car has a spot for that front light. Well, actually, not every car, but newer cars made after mid-'90s, early 90s, maybe even late 80s. I would say every one of those cars has a spot for a front license plate. There are some specialty vehicles and even specialty bumpers that are put on some trucks that don't. And that's why there's always been some contention around this. But it is the discussion was more around the cost to the state. Because the sponsor, Senator Dan McKay, said during the legislative discussion around this in the committee meeting and on the House floor and Senate floor debates, he said he spoke with UHP and Department of Motor Vehicles, and he said they were able to work together to write this bill to address some concerns. Law enforcement had some concerns about removing front license plate requirement because it's a lot easier for them to identify vehicles. If they don't have to be behind you, if they can pass you on a 2-lane road. But then there are some questions about, some of the rules, both in statute and in policies, law enforcement agencies throughout the state about when is and isn't an okay time to pull someone over. I had an experience like this myself, and I'll let you know, I successfully, through the county attorney's office, fought this. I had paid... This was now, the systems have changed and I hope have gotten better by now. But so they keep a database of uninsured vehicles and unregistered vehicles and things like that in Utah now. And I had paid my registration and insurance. My insurance had come due the same week. So I'd paid my registration and insurance in the same week and on like Wednesday. But over the weekend, that following weekend, apparently the database had not been updated yet. And so an officer passed me, ran my front license plate, and it came up as unregistered. Pulled me over for that. This is how I got out of it. Pulled me over for that. That was his reason for stopping me. And they didn't even ask questions when I said, I want to fight this. I told them the scenario. The officer agreed that was the scenario. They said, you have a nice day. Don't worry about the fine. So, yeah, it was the reason he pulled me over. And I tell that story mainly to say this is, why it's caused confusion and why Senator Dan McKay said, that it needed to change. But his main reason, what he cited as the main reason for doing away with this, was cost to the state. It's costing the state, well, basically double the money it really needs to spend, because when a vehicle is licensed and registered, they have to make sure every driver gets 2 plates. And interestingly enough, though, the bill then kind of backtracks on that in its actual language, because it directs $1 from each license plate to go to the Utah Highway Patrol, a fund for the Utah Highway Patrol that they can use to train and hire more troopers. And people were concerned about that, because they're saying, okay, well, you're saving the state some money, but then you're also taking $1 out of what the state gets for this to go to this fund. So maybe keep the front license plate requirement and just have all of that money, which would be $4, go to the Highway Patrol instead. That led to the bill almost dying, and in the end, it actually passed. So, again, it hasn't been signed by the governor yet, but the governor said he's planning to sign it. He said that during the session, and he will, as of January 1st, 2025, on the books, no longer be required to have a front license plate. But again, at least for the Highway Patrol, they said, they've got the message from the legislature that this is the legislature's intent, and this will probably start changing policies and practices in LEAs immediately. So again, right now on the books, it is not a primary offense. You can't be pulled over for not having a front license plate, but technically, if you are pulled over for something else,
so don't rip
they can
off
cite you for it.
The front license plate. Just yet.
If you have one on your car, there's no reason to go remove it. If you don't have one on your car, well, I shouldn't give legal advice. Personally, I wouldn't worry about it at this point if I didn't have one on the front of my car already. If I had one, I'd just leave it.
Hey, my name's
Andy, movie boy.
I'm long-time listener, first-time caller.
Bill,
he was on your blind side.
We've got to start screening these calls better.
Long-time listener, first-time caller.
For these visitors.
I just have a question, and I wondered if maybe I don't know if you have connections to Dan McGay that you could ask him this. But what if I have a side license plates? Is that good? Like that I've made myself?
No.
Okay.
No, that's what sovereign citizens do. They print them out at home.
Well, I put them on my...
And they get arrested.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I put them on my ATV one time, and I took a ride through a canyon. I almost got arrested, but
Now you're running for governor?
I've actually been thinking about it. My slogan is Utah's FDR. You think that'll work?
I still laugh when he tweeted that.
I don't think people.
Those who will think it's funny know who you're talking about.
You need to come up with a different cadence, though.
That doesn't really land, does it?
As you can tell, Andy Morgan is here early. We're going to kick off the movie show because we've got to talk Oscars. We've got to talk about this scary imaginary friend movie Andy saw and more. So, For the People movie show next here on KVNU Logan.
Wouldn't it be nice to lose a minimum of 2 to 5 inches of fat just like that? At Bell Medical, with our uniquely patented FDA-cleared procedures, we are able to permanently remove that stubborn, hormonal fat that almost seems impossible to get rid of. And we are able to do it in a way that is so precise. We can guarantee a minimum of 2 to 5 inches of fat loss after 1 visit with us.
Schedule your free consultation at our Bountiful Clinic at bellmedical.com and let us make your dreams a reality.
I'm Jason Walton, candidate for U.S. Senate. I'm recording from the Tucson sector of our southern border, and nobody's here. Our government should defend our territory, but President Biden, Mitch McConnell, and career politicians are funding war in other countries while the cartels are waging unchecked war here on American soil. I'm standing up to build the wall, end catch and release, and secure the border. Stand with me. I'm Jason Walton, and I approve this message.
Paid for by friends of Jason Walton for Senate.
This is the Sean Hannity Show.
There's one thing going into this election year we've got to just stand back and marvel at. All conventional political gravity that would normally apply to a presidential candidate does not apply to Donald Trump. They have made Donald Trump, they've done the impossible. A fighter like Donald Trump, they've turned into a sympathetic figure.
Sean Hannity, weekday afternoons from 1 to 4 on News Talk KVNU.
Welcome back to KVNU's For the People. Just a few minutes left in hour 1. For the People movie show in hour 2 and here in hour 1. Andy has arrived. He's in the studio, and Andy, I couldn't remember the name of the imaginary friend horror movie that we're going to be talking about next hour, and then you reminded me it's just called Imaginary.
Yeah. Not
Seems
the
like
John
something I
Krasinski
should have
version.
remembered.
Let's point that out to. Don't bring your children.
Have you seen the trailers for that? The new. So there's another Quiet Place movie coming.
I would say that I'm not excited about that, except when I see Lupita Nyong'o and what's the guy Joseph Quinn that was in Stranger Things?
Yeah,
that he just ruled as that Eddie character, and everybody's been like,
perfect.
When are we going to see him in something else?
Well, and this, so like I've gone. So I really like the first one. The second one, I was thinking, you shouldn't have.
Yeah, that one felt unnecessary.
It definitely just like ruining, trying to turn something that shouldn't be a franchise into a franchise. And now this third one comes along, and I'm watching the trailer, thinking, I might be glad they're doing this one.
Well, and think about it, like if you're a
and this
creator
is an origin story, kind of. This is going backwards.
It's chapter 1. It's day one.
Day one.
I think it's interesting.
It almost got an R rating.
Well, what I find interesting is most creators, nobody sets out to make a movie. Like I know people are like, oh, they ruined this or whatever.
Yeah.
But everybody wants everybody wants to get paid. Artistic, everything, that's awesome. But at the end of the day, everyone wants a paycheck.
Just like you always say with Twilight, that first one was perfect. They should have left it there.
Right.
You're always saying.
Yeah, and why do we have to have a prequel series that we know is going to come at some point?
And it could have stopped at Phantom Menace. There's no need for the other 8.
Yeah.
Just leave it at Jar Jar Binks.
I just don't. I wish the story had been about
Andy's
him.
always saying.
I wish the story was about him. It's fake news. Fake news, Jason.
There's going to be a lot of that because the For the People movie show is next. Andy again reviewing Imaginary, a horror film about an imaginary friend, really. And also Oscar buzz. That's just right around the corner. More to come here on the For the People movie show right after this on KVNU Logan.
Is right here on your radio. Breaking news and stimulating talk. KVNU Logan, 610 AM and 102.1 FM.